Okay, so the spreadsheets say you're okay, so why can't you quit? We have definitely been there. And really what it comes down to is, why are you continuing to work? And what is the hidden cost of that? And honestly, it can be categorized into a couple of different things. Loss of capital and loss of identity. And we have faced both of those. If you've just stumbled upon our channel, I'm Heather, and this is Paul. We're taking retirement on the road, the rails, and the waves. Welcome to the Freedom Strategy.
So yeah, I went through this 2 years ago in making a choice to retire or not to retire. And it took me about 3 years. And as I thought about it and as we talked about it, there were really 5 different aspects that I was dealing with that I had to overcome. The first one was, this is just what I went through. I'm not saying that anybody else is going through this. This is just what I went through. And I think it can be common with a lot of people. First was, we're wired to work. Yeah. I know I'm wired to work. I had been working since I was
10?
Preteen.
Yeah.
And it never stopped. And I was just wired to work, to build. And I felt a responsibility to do that. And it was hard to overcome that responsibility to build. And then I felt almost selfish not to work.
Right.
And that was a hard feeling to overcome.
And it is. I think the thing to address is that, you know, when you look at the spreadsheets, everything looked fine. It really did look fine. And you, I think, fought this dilemma for like 3 years before you actually retired. Yeah. And of the two of us, I am more of the risk taker for sure. I certainly faced this as well in my career as a trial attorney in deciding to leave that, and then also in my career as a CEO of a medical company. Yeah. And I faced it as well. Like we are driven to work and continue to add to that portfolio. But even when you're looking at the portfolio and it's like, okay, everything looks okay, something still keeps you there. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think that's where you're talking about we're just hardwired to keep putting money in, putting it away, and it's a really big mental shift. Can you tell we're in Italy?
We're in Italy.
With the people talking. It's a big mental shift.
Yeah. And that goes into one of the other dilemmas is, okay, our spreadsheet, our retirement plan may be complete, and we're safe from a financial standpoint, right, but why not build more buffer?
Yeah.
Why not continue to build out a buffer?
There are all those what ifs.
There's those what ifs. Yeah. There's those what ifs, and maybe just a little bit more. Let's continue to work on that buffer. And then 1 year turns into 2 years, 2 years turns into 3 years. And what good have we really done ourselves?
Right. And there is a hidden cost to that. 1 more year turns into 2 more years, turns into 5 more years. And we're going to get to those hidden costs in just a minute. But we're going to talk a little bit more about sort of the mentality behind what keeps you there. So not only is it financial, not only is it that fear of capital loss and all of the what ifs, but it is also fear of loss of identity. Now, to be honest, I don't know that you had that very much.
No, I didn't go through that. Yeah. So obviously, I had a very successful career. A lot of my friends, many of my friendships I've developed over the years were through my career. So that was my identity. But there were so many things that I wanted to do that I had put off doing because of my career that I was going to go focus on those.
Right.
And so I was not, for me personally, there was no issue with a change in identity at all, because I had things that I wanted to do post-career.
But it is super important to identify that is a real issue with people. And quite honestly, I felt that when I left my career as an attorney. I continued to identify as I'm a lawyer for a very, very long time because it was so tied into who I was. And frankly, my self-worth was tied to that. Now, I almost never mention that I was an attorney, so it's interesting how that has changed over time.
But you're still an attorney.
But I am still an attorney. I am. But you know, it's important to understand that we really do identify with who we are in our corporate world. Yes. And we are here to tell you,
well, that's, I know.
That goes away actually.
It does. It can. It can.
Yeah.
For me, it was never an issue. I can't tell you for you if it's going to be an issue or not. For me, it wasn't. But we recognize that is there. It is very strong for a lot of people. We recognize that.
Right. So those are sort of the two primary categories of why people get stuck in this one more year dilemma. It is real. We have felt it, and many of you feel that same thing. And if you really are going through that internal battle, really stuck in that one more year trap, we do have a free PDF handout. I will put a link to it below, and it'll go straight to your inbox. And it is basically a 12-month plan, checkbox plan of action. Because if you're like we are, sometimes those checkboxes help. The plan of action helps. And it just kind of gets your ball rolling. And frankly, you don't have to take 12 months to do it, but it's 12 months. Each month, it gives you something else to focus on to really help you feel comfortable when you want to go ahead and retire. So the link to that is below.
Well, there were a couple other things I had jotted down that I had thought about that I think a lot of people struggle with, and I struggled with myself. Number one was build versus consume. We're afraid that we're going to get, as we retire, we're now going to go into a consumption model of our funds, and that's a tough thing to overcome. One way that I overcame that is I talked to a tax advisor, not a tax accountant and not somebody that prepares our taxes, but to a tax advisor to really understand where am I from a building standpoint versus a consumption standpoint. Will I ever really go into consumption, or will my paycheck just simply come from a different place? And as it turns out, for us, our paycheck is now coming from a different place. It's not coming as a W-2 from a company.
Right.
It's coming from our portfolio.
Yeah.
And once I realized that, that changed my thought about that.
Right.
And then finally, one other thing that I had to overcome was that dilemma of I want one more career achievement, one more goal. Sometimes those goals, that could be maybe you've got a project that you're working on that is a 2 or 3 year project with your company, and walking away from that can be difficult. Walking away from a successful customer can be difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go back to my prior statements. It's tough to walk away from that paycheck.
Yeah.
It's tough to walk away from that quarterly bonus or a commission. Very, very difficult to do. But back to your point now, and let's get to that. What is the hidden cost of not moving on?
Right, and I look at these hidden costs sort of in two different ways. I think one is your health. And let's talk about that for a minute. Is so many people say, oh, well, I'm going to get healthy when I retire. And that sounds good, but studies have shown that that actually doesn't work. So what you're doing is, here's the truth. You probably are not going to be healthier next year than you are this year. You are giving away your best remaining healthy years.
And if you're staying in a very stressful job, a job maybe that you're not happy with, you're at the twilight of that, and you struggle to do one more Zoom call, to do one more QBR. If you're struggling with that, you're probably not helping your health at all. It's deteriorating because
you're
of that
making
stress.
it worse. So your health issues are probably escalating at this point due to stress, due to not having a great active lifestyle. And you're not able to then take the time to fix that problem. So one more year is almost an exponential negative effect on your health. And when you're out wanting to, like we do, travel the world or whatever your retirement goals are, trust me, you're going to want your health.
And not only that, your health is going to help prolong your portfolio, your retirement portfolio. The healthier you are going into retirement, that will save you tremendous cost in retirement.
Right, because being unhealthy costs money, particularly in the United States. And by the way, as an aside, I am coming out with a complete whole video on health insurance. particularly if you're going to retire before the age of 65, because that is a huge issue. That is why many, many, many people stay in their corporate jobs. And the truth is, you don't have to. We didn't. I did all the research. I dug deep, and we looked at all of the options that we had, and it worked out great for us. So subscribe if you want to get that video, because it's super helpful, super important, and it will take off the table the excuse that, well, I need my corporate health insurance.
Yeah. So that's another one. Walking away from benefits is tremendously tough. We get conditioned, we get used to those benefits. It's the easy button. It takes care of our health. We get certain benefits from a financial standpoint.
Right.
And walking away from those benefits, especially before you're of Social Security age, which I was, that's a tough decision. It's not just a spreadsheet. It's a long-term condition that we've been going through.
Well, and the problem is, it feels like, oh, these are free benefits. They're not free. They are costing you, and that's the truth.
And their benefits, honestly, those benefits you can replace elsewhere.
On your own.
On your own.
Absolutely. So in addition to what a hidden cost is of your health and the financial implications of your health getting worse, I think the other hidden cost is, I don't know the best way to say it, sort of the loss of the identity that you can become, right? You're so stuck in your current identity, at least we were, like I said, as an attorney, as a sales executive, you kind of, that's who you get stuck in. But guess what? We are now 2 years into full-time retirement. We are here in beautiful Sicily, Italy. And you know what we are now? We're Paul and Heather, who travel the world and see all kinds of things and meet new people.
Yeah, and with that, with what we're doing in retirement, there's new communities that we're building relationships with people in those communities.
Yeah.
So it just changed.
There's no loss there. There's no loss of identity there. It's different. And quite honestly, in my opinion, it's far more rewarding. It's much more eye-opening. I mean, we are seeing things that are just incredible. I am standing here where literally Archimedes stood and came up with Eureka. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And if you're sitting at your desk, looking at your spreadsheet that probably tells you you're okay to quit, you're not going to get any of that.
Yeah. And by the way, I've yet to run into that person of all the retirees that we run into, which is a lot of them. We are now in the retirement community. I've yet to run into that person that says, I wish I would have worked longer.
Yes.
We just have not. Honestly, you hear it all the time. You hear people talk about it all the time. I don't run into that person.
No, never once. And that is kind of how I wanted to wrap it up, is really, it sounds so cliche, but it is so true. We only have a finite amount of time left. How many people at age 90 are going to look back and say, man, I really wish I worked one more year. I wish I added 2.5% to that spreadsheet. Nobody.
What we have run into, though, is we've run into a number of people that, while they've quit their primary career, they still stay active. They'll either do some level of consulting, maybe a few hours a week, or they'll pick up a different type of job that they've always wanted to do, but their primary career would not let them do. So there are certainly those number of people that they don't stop working. They're just doing something that they've always wanted to do, that they enjoy, or that doesn't interfere with the things that they want to do in retirement.
Right. It's just sort of a different paradigm.
Yeah. And we know this is a highly, highly personal decision. This is a highly, highly emotional decision. We recognize, we understand that. We're not here to tell anybody what to do. We're just here to provide information of what we went through, and hopefully it can help you look at it from an objective standpoint and start to become introspective on what those dilemmas you may be dealing with that we discussed.
Right. So really, to wrap it up, we get it. We've been there, that one more year trap. It does feel like a trap at times. And it really, honestly, just comes down to the fear of loss of capital, the fear of loss of identity, and you just need to address those issues like we did. One
other thing I'd like to add, and I remember you and I having this discussion very vividly, is I had a 40-year career. And then that doesn't include me working as a teenager and prior to being a teenager. And I look back and think, I never was not successful
Right.
So when post-career, that doesn't mean I'm going to be, I think my odds of being successful in retirement are just as good as what they were in my career. So when I finally realized it's up to me and I can make it a success just like I did in my career, that took a lot of the fear away.
Right.
That took a lot of the fear away for me.
Right. So just some things to think about. You know, it's a real thing. It's a real issue. So thank you so much for joining us on The Freedom Strategy, and we will see you next time.